Welcome to Dollars and Decisions. Today, let's think about the market a little differently. Not as some super complex financial system, but more like a game. A game with rules, prizes, and yeah, some penalties. And our guide through this is one of the all-time greats, Jesse Livermore. He figured out something huge. Winning this game isn't really about being the smartest person in the room. Nope, it's about mastering your own mind. So, let's dive in and see how he did it.
So Livermore noticed this really strange habit that almost everyone has when they play this game. And he asked this question: why is it that we snatch a small prize, a quick little profit, off the table almost immediately, but when a trade goes wrong, we just cling to it for dear life? We get all hopeful, we hang on, and we watch a small penalty just balloon into a massive one. This one question, it gets right to the very heart of what separates the winners from the losers.
Okay, so to solve that puzzle, we need our very first rule for winning the game, and it's a big one. We have to completely change the way we think about penalties, or what traders call losses. This isn't about trying to avoid them. That's impossible. It's all about how you handle them.
Here it is. This is the mindset shift that changes everything. Think of a small loss, not as you making a mistake, but as a simple business expense. A shop owner has to pay rent to keep the doors open, right? Well, for a trader, small, planned losses, that's your rent. It's just the price of admission to stay in the game. It's not a personal failure at all. It's just the cost of doing business.
And this idea really separates the two types of players out there. First, you've got the hopeful player. They get a penalty, and what do? They start managing their feelings. They hope it'll turn around. Then you have the disciplined player. They're not managing feelings, they're managing risk. They see the signal for a penalty, and they just exit. No drama, no hoping. One of these players eventually gets wiped out by those big penalties. The other one, well, they live to play another day.
And this quote from Livermore just nails why hope is so incredibly dangerous here. See, when a trade is going against you, the game board, the market, is giving you clear, objective facts. But hope is deaf. It literally can't hear those warnings. It just whispers these comforting stories about a big comeback. In this game, hope is the single most expensive emotion you can possibly have. All right, so if rule number 1 is all about cutting penalties short, rule number 2 tackles the exact opposite problem, our deep-seated fear of letting our prizes get bigger. The best way to think about a winning trade is like planting a garden. First, you do the hard work, right? You find good soil, a solid setup. Then you plant the seed, you enter the trade. And then, and this is the hard part, you have to let it grow. You can't be digging it up every 5 minutes to check on the roots. You have to practice patience and just wait for the signal that it's actually time to harvest.
So why is that so hard for us? Why is letting a winner grow so tough? Well, it's because of this idea of unrealized profit. It just feels so fragile, like it could vanish in a puff of smoke at any second. Isn't that ironic? The very prize we're trying to grow is the thing that terrifies us the most. And that fear makes us hover and interfere and ultimately cut our winners way, way too early.
And this brings us to such a critical point. The big prizes in this game, they aren't won through constant action. They don't come from watching every single tick of the game clock. They come from sitting. Just sitting. From having the discipline and the patience to let a good position do its thing. Letting a trend play out over time, not over our emotions.
Okay, all of this leads us to our third and maybe the most crucial rule of all. You have to listen to the game board. The price you see on the chart, that is the ultimate referee. It tells you the real score, not your opinion, not what the news says, and definitely not your hopes.
And the board doesn't usually just yell at you right away. At first, it whispers. You'll start to see these little subtle signs that a trade isn't quite acting right. Maybe the momentum is fading a bit, or it's struggling to get through a key level. These are quiet warnings, and they are so easy to ignore when you're already in the trade. Now, if you don't listen to that whisper, the board starts to speak a little more clearly. A key level breaks, the volume picks up, confirming the move against you. The warnings are now pretty obvious. The game is basically tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, pay attention. Something is wrong here. And if you're still arguing, if you're still holding on because of ego or hope, the board finally shouts. This is that big, undeniable, gut-wrenching move against you. And now, that small, manageable penalty you ignored way back at the whisper stage, well, it's become a really serious problem. The game has made its decision, even if you haven't. So the real question you have to ask yourself on every single trade is this: are you actually listening to the game board, or are you arguing with it? trying to force it to agree with you. Because here's the thing, the board never argues back. It just moves.
And this brings us to such a critical difference. See, confidence says, I'm sure I'm right and the market will eventually see it my way. This is a recipe for disaster. But obedience simply says, the price is telling me I'm wrong right now, so I'm going to step aside. The market doesn't reward your confidence. It couldn't care less. It rewards your obedience to what's actually happening.
Okay, let's wrap all this up. Winning this game is not about being right on every single turn. It's about having a strategy that keeps you at the table, a strategy that's built to win over the long haul.
And what's your number one job before anything else? It's not to get rich quick. It's much simpler. Your job is to stay in the game. That's it. Profit is the result of playing well, but survival is the requirement to play it all. You have to protect your chips so you have the chance to come back and play tomorrow.
So, the habits of a winning player are pretty simple to understand, even if they're not always easy to do. First, pay the cost to play. Accept those small losses without any argument. Second, let your prizes grow. Be patient with your winners. Third, listen to the game board. Obey the price above everything else. And finally, and this is a big one, know when the conditions just aren't right, and it's best to just sit on your hands and wait.
And that really leaves us with one final, crucial thought. Every time you enter this game, just ask yourself this one simple question. Am I playing to be right on this single turn? Or am I making the disciplined moves I need to make to win the entire game? The answer to that, well, that changes everything.
All right, I really hope that whole breakdown helps you head into your next trade with a lot more confidence.
And hey, if it did, you know what to do. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're always dropping new strategies to help you navigate these markets.
You know, it's all part of our mission here, our big idea, helping you build your process so you can trade with total clarity.
Want to keep the ball rolling? Check out this video right over here. Until then, trade smart.